6 of the worst things you can do when trying to sell your home. The first thing on my list is overpricing or mispricing your home. I know there's this kind of theory like, well, I want to price it high because I know people are going to come and negotiate. But one of the worst things you can do is price it in a way that nobody is going to see your home. Because the way that people search for homes is they're looking up to their max budget. And let's say somebody's searching for a home that's up to $550,000 and you want to get $550,000 for your home, but you think, oh, well, I'll price it high and I'll just see what happens and they can always negotiate. But if that person's searching up to $550 and you price your home at $560, guess what? They are never gonna see your home. They won't even have an opportunity to come inside and see the home and then offer you less because they literally will never see it in their search. So you wanna make sure you're priced exactly where you need to be. Otherwise, you risk the opportunity of potentially people who want your home and can afford your home and just will never see it because you've overpriced it. One really good indicator of if you've overpriced is when you first go on the market and you have no showings that first weekend. Almost always that's an indicator that you are overpriced. All right, the next thing on the list is negotiating major home repairs, curb appeal, and any inspection items on a property. So for my sellers, I almost always recommend doing a home inspection prior to going on the market. And that way we're gonna catch anything that could potentially be major issues for buyers. This could be really minor things like a small plumbing leak, or it could be major things like just knowing that your roof is old. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're gonna go and replace the roof, but it does change the angle of our marketing and it makes sure that we are both hitting the right people and the right loan types, because not all loans can purchase all types of homes. So it is super important that you do all of those little things that are going to get your home as marketable as possible, and or disclose anything that you know is major that you're just not willing to do, and make sure the price is accommodating that. I see way too often that sellers think that their home is this beautiful gem, and I know to you it is because you've probably raised your family in it. But when it hits the market, it's gotta be in really beautiful condition, shine from that curb appeal, and really make sure that a new buyer walking in isn't going to be walking into a huge list of issues or a huge list of fixes. And if they are, again, just making sure that we market to that right audience. The third one is inadequately marketing your property or not depersonalizing and getting it really show ready. That is a huge thing that I see people do. They continue living the way that they're normally living with the dishes in the sink and the family photos on the wall when they go on the market. And that is gonna be so incredibly distracting from anybody who walks in the door because they are looking for a home for themselves, not a home of your families. So as much as you possibly can prior to going on the market, you're gonna depersonalize. And almost every single time I tell this of a seller who is living in the home, maybe has kids, has a lot going on inside, that first round of depersonalizing is almost never enough. I mean, down to the point where you will have no items on shelves, or maybe it's one item on a shelf, and it's going to feel very barren. It's going to not feel personal. It's not gonna feel like you at all. And that is the point. So if you want help on figuring out how to depersonalize, I do actually have a checklist for that. It is in the downloads below, or you're welcome to reach out to me directly. I'm happy to even get on a call with you and figure out what that might look like for your specific situation if that's something you're interested in. So making sure that your home is as depersonalized as possible, and then having conversations around potentially staging. A vacant home is going to feel very cold, and without furniture, you really can't see how big the space is. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but it's true. Without furniture, the space feels smaller. So it is important that homes are staged correctly, and whether that is with your own furniture or with furniture that we're gonna bring in, it's important that that's done. Otherwise, the home is not going to sell, or it's not gonna present itself as best it possibly can when people walk in the door. So I think with these first 3 items, some of the biggest things to consider is 1, you're trying to get people into the door of your home, but 2, once people are there, you wanna make sure that the home shows really beautifully so they walk out and go, wow, that was amazing, I want that house. So number 4 is being uncooperative with showings. I know it can be really challenging, especially if you're working from home or you have kids, to find time that you're able to vacate your home and not only vacate it, but also get it cleaned up before you leave for showings. If that is you, where you're in a position and it's challenging to leave the house, I would highly recommend that we do some pre-planning around that to make sure that we are able to get people in there on a weekend maybe, or certain blocks of time, or even block out sections of the day that we're not allowing showings, so that when you do have showings, you have the house in the best condition possible. So for every single showing, it's really important that you are 100% house is ready to go for every single person that comes in the door. And if it's not, or that's an issue for you, we've got to find out a different way to make that happen so that, again, you have every single showing being absolutely perfect for people to see it. Number 5, and this is a really tough one, is being too emotional about the process. Again, we talked about having this house be your home and where you've raised the family, and now we're taking off that hat and shifting into a product. And what I've seen is really challenging for some people that are so invested in the home itself and so emotionally attached that they're unwilling to take feedback from what the market's doing or take feedback from their realtor about what they need to depersonalize or stage. And they're also often unwilling to see some of the issues of the house and actually get them fixed. Another thing that comes up really, really often is asking if we are going to be getting what's called love letters from buyers. And those would be letters that the buyer writes all about themselves and their family. And while I'm sure back in the day this was completely normal and totally fine to do, we have so many fair housing guidelines right now, and for good reason, that we cannot have love letters. That means that as much as you are emotionally attached to your house, you cannot choose which buyer is purchasing your house based off of their family, based off their religion, or any protected classes. Being too emotional can often cloud judgment when it comes to the different offers you're receiving. And it is super important that as your realtor, I'm making sure that your offers are presented to you in a way that's going to, 1, get you the most money, but then 2, and most importantly, get you the best terms for closing on your home and making that process as smooth as possible. What I find is if people are too emotionally attached to who the person is that's purchasing, that can often cloud judgment as to which offer is actually the strongest for them and going to get them to their ultimate goals. I would just encourage you to do your best to separate yourself from the home that you used to have to now needing to sell this product of a house and move on to the next dream property. All right, the last one, number 6, is ignoring feedback and market changes. The market can move really quickly, and as people are coming into your home, we oftentimes are able to get feedback from other realtors about how the showing went, what they were thinking about the property, and if there's any feedback or thoughts they have about changes on the property if they were not interested in it. That feedback is so important that we both take into consideration and try to implement if at all we can in order to make your home more marketable for future showings. It's also really, really important that you understand that as that market shifts and your home is maybe on the market for a longer period of time, the market can actually change on you, meaning the price that we first went on might be different from the price that we actually need to be at. I'll give you an example. When you go on the market, you might have the exact correct price for where you need to be. And the next day, or maybe the next weekend, the house next door, which is identical to yours, also goes on the market for a lower price. If that happens, you have to be willing to make changes and make adjustments. Otherwise, every single person that comes into your neighborhood or is looking in your area is not going to stop at your house. They're going to stop next door. And guess what? That house is going to sell because yours is now priced too high, even though originally it was priced correctly. The inflexibility around market changes, I see a lot really impacting sellers. If they're unwilling to make the changes that they need to at a really quick level, it's going to hurt them in the long run. I'm Larissa, I'm a Washington State realtor, and I have seen so many sellers get absolutely destroyed when they go on the market and they're doing any one of these things. So I'm here to help you avoid that. If you have more questions about selling your home either with or without a realtor, check out some of the guides below. I have information on both, so you can do it yourself or you can hire a professional. And if you're in Washington State, feel free to reach out to me directly. I would love to work with you.